على سيد الأنبياء والمرسلين اللهم علمنا ما ينفعنا وانفعنا بما تعلمنا وزدنا بفضلك علما وتعليما إنك على كل شيء قدير. Very, very important section for Americans. So when Americans travel around the world, what do other people get a sense about them? What do people outside of America think about Americans generally? Inconsiderate, yeah. Do Americans have a sense? They're adventurous sometimes, yeah. It's true. Okay, what else do they think about Americans? Connected to inconsiderate. Is the average American more wealthy than the average non-American? There's a lot of money in America compared to many other places. Okay, so a lot of Americans have a sense of pride. There's a sense of pride, like we are, like we're important people. I'm American. I'm an important person. You're not American, not an important person. That's a general sense that many people get about Americans. Not all Americans, but many Americans. And so, if you look at America, house sizes, car sizes, consumption, it's all more, right? You just have bigger cars, bigger houses, consume more than other places. So when you sit in a big car, does that make you feel humble? Does it make you feel proud? I'm going to drive a Toyota Tundra or I'm going to drive Mr. Bean's car. You know Mr. Bean's car? Is everyone's familiar with Mr. Bean's car? Yeah? So if you drove Mr. Bean's car in America, it seems funny, right? That's actually a real car in England, right? And cars that size is quite a normal thing to drive, right? And all over the world, it's quite normal to drive a car that kind of size, right? In America, that's like, why is it so small, right? So I remember, like a Toyota Accord. Is that a big car? Having an Accord, is that considered a big car? Or is that a small car? Is that like a normal size car that someone might drive? It's a normal size car, right? A Toyota Accord is a normal size car, right? Camry, normal size car. Not outside of America. Outside of America, that's a big car, right? So in England, like people would not drive a car like a Camry or drive a car like an Accord, right? Why would you drive an Accord when you can drive something like a Honda Civic, for example, a Civic or something like a Honda City, right? Um, that's a kind of that's a family car, right? And so there's a problem, which is that when people have money, they become proud. When people have power, they become proud. It's almost inseparable, almost, right? Go and speak to, a Kuwaiti. Go and speak to a Yemeni. Okay, Kuwaiti, lots of money. They're going to be proud generally. They might not even notice it, right? Saudi versus I don't know, a Pakistani, So there's this problem, which is that we have this emotional transfer of when Allah gives us power or wealth, we become proud, right? And so this chapter is not talking about camels. Camels are a cause of pride, but the answer is having large things. You have big house, big car. It makes you proud. Okay? إِلَّا مَا رَحِمَ رَبِّي, except on the rare occasion when Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala protects you. Right? So by default then, we do not try and have large, expensive things. It's halal, you can buy whatever you want, right? But you'll notice the difference, right? When you have a car that is, you know, when you have a car that's like is just acceptable, it does the job, and then you have a nice car, you feel different, right? You feel different, a different feeling you have, right? We did before we looked at small houses, right? There was issue of like how low the roof was of their houses, right? So we have to be, be cognizant of this, and a car. What do you want? A car? You want a Toyota Corolla? Why? Because that's the most practical car you're ever going to have in your life, right? Um, that's a very good car. Not, uh, it doesn't matter how old it is. Well, 250,000 miles is still going to be working, right? So that's the sign of the believer. Something that works, something that's reliable. It's not stupid. You're not wasting money on something that's just pathetic, but it's not flash. You're not trying to show off, right? So this chapter is not saying it is haram to have a large vehicle. Oh, it's haram to travel with a camel. Well, how else are you going to travel in the desert, right? But regardless, it's a cause of pride. And the previous chapter was what? Previous chapter was about sheep and goats, right? So the difference between somebody who has sheep and goats, humble. Somebody who has cows, camels, proud, because they're large animals, right? And you become proud. So, Bismillah, let's read. Um, where do we get to in the Arabic? We're way after this. We are almost getting halfway through the book, please. Okay, we are here. Okay. Bab al-ibilu izzun li ahliha. Okay, so let's read the first hadith. حدثنا إسماعيل قال حدثنا مالك عن إمام مالك عن أبي الزناد عن الأعرج عن أبي هريرة أن رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم قال رأس الكفر نحو المشرق والفخر والخيلاء في أهل الخيل والإبل الفدادين أهل الوبر والسكينة في أهل الغنم. Mhm. Go ahead, Mustafa.
Abu Hurairah reported that the Messenger of Allah, may Allah bless him and grant him peace, said, "The head or summit of disbelief lies towards the east, and pride and arrogance lie in people who possess horses and camels, who are also coarse and Bedouins, who are also coarse the Bedouins. But tranquility lies in people who possess sheep."
Mhm. So, do you want to be the person with the large house or the small house? Do you want to be the person with the large vehicle or the small vehicle? Right? So the tranquility is lots of money, lots of power, right? Or do you want to be these? So this is generally the case. Is it possible that you could be proud and haughty and stuck up if you have a small vehicle or a small house and be very humble? It's possible, right? Why not? But a very important thing with a vehicle and or vehicle or a car or a house is what are you going to do with this, right? Like what do you do with the house? So you have a six-bedroom house. Do you fill it with guests? No. Do you fill it with classes? No. What do you do with it then? I just have it. Okay. What does it mean? It means you don't have it, right? So every single thing we have to look at it like what can you convert it into, right? So if when you drive your F-150, like you sit in the car and before you turn it on, you say genuine thank you to Allah. Like every single time you sit in your F-150, you're so happy. And then you do things with it, right? You use it on your farm, you use it for your construction company, you go on trips with people, you take orphans out, you do things. Fine, go ahead. There's nothing wrong with it. Right? There's nothing wrong with having a big house or a big car or anything, but the issue is what do you do with it? So if you just have it, like you have a Tundra, do you have a like do or do you pull cows around? Are you an elephant vet? Are you do you cut down trees and drag logs around? Like, no, okay, I just have it. Okay, then it's just a cause of pride and a waste of money, right? And the strange thing, subhanAllah, is you'll see people coming to the masjid, right? They'll come to the masjid and they'll roll their trousers up, right? Making sure that their trousers are not they're above their ankles. Why? Because the Prophet ﷺ, he said that whoever drags his clothes on the floor out of pride, Allah will not look at him. So they don't want to be dragging their clothes out of pride, but they're happy to be burning a hole in their ozone layer and spending, I don't know, I don't know how much a Tundra costs or whatever it is, or these kind of cars. Like, it's a very expensive car, using a lot of fuel, and is loud and it's very arrogant, and it doesn't make sense to drive to the masjid like that. The Prophet ﷺ mentioned the reward of the person who walks to the masjid and doesn't ride. Even that riding a horse, there's some level of pride in it, right? Or riding a vehicle, like walking, the humility of walking to the mosque, right? And somebody turns up in this huge vehicle, right, and then rolls their trousers up. It doesn't make sense. It's like, what are you trying to do? Like, oh, avoid the potential pride of having long trousers, but you're not avoiding the huge, overt, and obvious pride of having a huge, loud car, right? That serves no purpose other than being loud, right? And the same extent applies to the way we dress, the way we walk, the way we do everything. May Allah protect us all. So the believer looks at things in terms of how we use them, and is sensitive. Their heart is sensitive. Now that Allah has given me power and I'm using it for the good, am I feeling proud about this or not? We have to be very, very careful of our hearts. Okay, this one up. So the next one it says حدثنا عمرو بن مرزوق قال أخبرنا شعبة عن عمارة بن أبي حفصة عن إكرمة عن ابن عباس قال عجبت للكلاب والشاه إن الشاء يذبح منها في السنة كذا وكذا ويهدى كذا وكذا والكلب تضع الكلب الواحد كذا وكذا والشاة أكثر منها. Right? Uh, so there's going to use a word here that is not a swear word, but it seems like a swear word because we only use it in one particular way. Okay? But he says here, so Ibn Abbas says, I have never ceased to wonder at dogs and sheep. Such and such a number of sheep were slaughtered in the year, and such were sacrificed, right? Yet one female dog has a litter of such and such number of puppies, and sheep are more than the dog in number, right? Obviously, the reason is so I don't see that the point is, I guess, the barakah or something like that. It's to do with I think it's to do with the previous chapter, the barakah in dog in these things, right? Um, khair. But so this word here is not a cuss word. It's not a swear word. That's just the technical word for a female dog, right? It's not a swear word. But in American English, you can't really use it without it being a swear word, right? But it's a normal word. Okay. So Allahu alam. Let's look at the next hadith. Uh, so it says حدثنا قبيصة قال حدثنا وهب بن إسماعيل عن محمد بن قيس عن أبي هند الهمداني عن أبي ظبيان قال لي عمر بن الخطاب يا أبا ظبيان كم عطاؤك قلت 2500. قال له يا أبا ظبيان آه، ها؟ اتخذ اتخذ من الحرث I can't see what the word is here. Can't see there's a word here in Arabic. I can't see it. سابية or something like that. I can't see it. من قبل أن تليكم غلبة قريش لا يعد الأطاع معهم مالا. So this hadith here, not quite sure what it's got to do with this chapter either. Allahu A'lam. And then similarly, this previous hadith, Not sure how it's related. Wallahu alam. This previous hadith as well is not part of this topic. It's part of the previous topic. So there seems to be something odd in the book here that things have been moved around. Allahu alam. Let's go to the next hadith anyway. Um, okay, so it says حدثنا محمد بن بشار قال حدثنا محمد بن جعفر قال حدثنا شعبة قال سمعت أبا إسحاق قال سمعت عبدة بن حزن يقول تفاخر أهل الإبل وأصحاب الشاء فقال النبي صلى الله عليه وسلم بعث موسى وهو راعي غنم وبعث داود وهو راعي غنم وبعثت أنا وأنا أرعى غنم لأهلي بأجياد. And so he said, okay, go ahead, Bismillah, Mustafa.
Abda ibn Hazm said, the people of camels and the people of sheep vied with one another for glory. The Prophet, may Allah bless and grant him peace, said, Musa was sent and he was a shepherd. Dawood was sent and he was a shepherd. I was sent and I used to herd sheep for my people at Ajiyad.
Mm-hmm. Right. So, i.e., the Prophet is saying which group of people are the best, right? The people of sheep. Now, is that an absolute true? So, I live in the desert. Is it possible to live in the desert in Saudi Arabia without camels? It's not. So, you cannot use sheep to do trade. You can't load things on the backs of sheep, right? So when the Prophet ﷺ is telling us this, it doesn't mean it is so, that, but the point is somebody, so it's like saying, I drive a tiny taxi and you drive like a liner. Okay, well, a liner is very important. In fact, it's essential. So the issue is just don't be proud about it. Doesn't mean give it up, right? But you can do analogy then. Okay, what about the people having nice things. When you have lots of nice, wealthy things around you, it hardens your heart. It's not a good idea, right? So have things that are practical, a house that's big enough for you, a car that's good enough to do the job, clothes that are good enough to do the job, something smart here and there to wear. But when you have lots of dunya, it naturally makes you proud and makes you love the dunya, right? That's not a good idea. Okay, Bismillah. A man going back to live as a Bedouin. So, Babul al-A'rabiyah. حدثنا موسى بن إسماعيل قال حدثنا أبو عوانة عن عمرو عن عمر بن أبي سلمة عن أبيه عن أبي هريرة قال الكبائر سبع أولهن الإشراك بالله وقتل النفس ورمي المحصنات والأعرابية بعد الهجرة. Mhm.
Abu Hurairah said, there are seven major wrong actions. The first of them is to associate things with Allah, then killing someone, slandering chaste women, and then going back to live as a Bedouin after making hijrah.
Mhm. So what, it's haram to live in the desert? That'd be quite a good thing, wouldn't it be, to live in the middle of the desert, away from bad things, right? So what is the point here is you have become Muslim and you have left Mecca, went to Medina, and you have joined this city and this effort of jihad, and you're now part of something good, and then you say, you know what, forget all of that. I'm going to go back to the desert and live as I did before I ever became Muslim. I'm not part of anything. I have nothing to do with anything. I'm my own man. I have my own God. Right? So this is the point here. Right? It doesn't mean that it's actually haram to become a Bedouin. Right? In fact, the opposite to some extent, right? The Prophet ﷺ said, it will soon be that the best thing that a man will have is a few sheep that he takes to the hilltops, right? Kind of living like a Bedouin, right? Right. So that's what it means there. Wallahu a'lam. Okay, next hadith. Bab Sakini القرى. He says حدثنا أحمد بن عاصم قال حدثنا حيوة قال حدثنا بقية قال حدثنا صفوان قال سمعت راشد بن سعد يقول سمعت ثوبان. Yeah, so it didn't mention all of them. There's other, and so you find if you look at the hadiths, there's a number of different hadiths that list the kaba'ir, the major sins. They're not, they are different. They list different ones. Disobeying parents, murder, doing sihr. There's different ones mentioned. اوكي يقول سمعت ثوبان يقول قال لي رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم لا تسكن الكفور فإن ساكن الكفور كساكن القبور. قال أحمد الكفور القرى. Mhm. And I'll read the next one. We can read both. He says حدثنا إسحاق قال أخبرنا بقية قال حدثني صفوان قال سمعت راشد بن سعد يقول سمعت ثوبان قال للنبي صلى الله عليه وسلم يا ثوبان لا تسكن الكفور فإن ساكن الكفور كساكن القبور. Mhm. If you read those two.
Thoban, Thoban said, The Messenger of Allah, may Allah bless and grant him peace, told me, Do not live in the suburbs. The person who lives in the suburbs is like someone who lives in the graves. The transmitter said that kufr or suburbs are villages which are next to great cities.
Mhm. So you're going to have this. So I believe this word kafir. Kafir is I don't think it's an Arabic word. So you have it's a suffix that you find in the Levant, like kafir this and kafir that. I think these are Aramaic. It's an Aramaic word, which means a village in Aramaic. I don't think it's actually Arabic. Wallahu alam. So here's the issue, right? Is imagine Baghdad at the time of Imam Ahmad. Okay, there are all these ulama, all these religious people, right? And they are in the cities. Okay? Like if you look at all of the hadiths, they're always narrated in cities. Nobody's sitting in the middle of the desert. So you're living in the middle of nowhere, like Brentwood. Okay, joking. Okay, and there's all these shuyukh and all these ulama somewhere else, and you're just sitting here like, oh, that's where I live life. Right? Is that a good thing? It's not a good thing. Right? So as opposed to, okay, I'm going to go and live in SF then. I'll go and live in San Francisco. I'll go and live in New York. Yeah, but that's a center of sin. So why do you want to live there? Okay. So what it's talking about is that cities, when they are the centers of religious activity, right? There's things happening. And then political activity. The Khalifa wants you to go and fight in jihad, and you're in the middle of nowhere. And the message reached you 6 months later. Why are you in the middle of nowhere? Right? Go and be where the good action is happening, not where the bad action is happening. Right? Um, so, that's a very important thing. Right? So what does Imam Shafi'i said? He says, تغرب عن الأوطان في طلب العلا وسافر ففي الأسفار خمس فوائد. He says, become a stranger to all places and travel because there are 5 benefits in traveling. تفرج هم واكتساب معيشة وعلم وآداب وصحبة ماجد. He said, there's 5 benefits of traveling. Number 1, you will relieve your depression. Number 2, you will find an income. Number 3, you will find a lot of knowledge. Number 4, you will learn a lot of life skills. And number 5, you will have the company of amazing people. Right? So there are amazing people who live in the suburbs sometimes, right? It happens, right? Like Sheikh Murabit al-Hajj, right? Sheikh Murabit al-Hajj is Sheikh of Sheikh Hamza Yusuf and others, right? Um, he was in the middle of nowhere, intentionally in the middle of nowhere, right? As far away from anyone as possible. But generally speaking, it's not like that. Generally speaking, the ulama are in, the scholars are in major places. So you're living in the middle of nowhere. Obviously, you're going to be far away from things, and you're going to be a country bumpkin that doesn't know anything about the deen. Whereas you go to these places, Imam Bukhari is from Bukhara, major place, and he goes to Baghdad and he goes to all the cities. So you go to the cities to learn. That's what happens, right? The sacred knowledge doesn't exist outside of the cities. It's always in the cities, right? So being somebody who's in the suburbs or a country bumpkin, it's not good, right? So travel, be with, find scholars and be with these people. Right? This whole book, like if you could see the journeys that Imam Bukhari made and Imam Nasa'i and all these people, they're traveling everywhere, right? They're traveling, 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 traveling. That's how they became who they are.
Uh, Chick, I have a question.
Yes, yes.
Okay, so in some parts of the US, for example, where I used like my hometown, Indiana, right? The only mosque there is in the cities. So in my there's no Muslims. But if I go an hour away, which is a place called Evansville, it's inside a city and there's only a mosque there. If I go further out towards north to Michigan, then there's more mosque, which is inside a city. Uh, what's your opinion on? I would like to hear your opinion
Sorry,
on
Mason,
that.
your voice is going in and out. So I'm hearing half of the sentence and not the other half.
So my hometown, right, Indiana. I used to live like in the boonies where
Yeah.
like nobody else. Yeah. The only mosque there is an hour away from me.
Hmm.
Um, and I would have to travel to be at that mosque, which the mosque is in the city. Um, is that okay?
The point is you should be close to lots of righteous people. So ideally, you should be in a place where there's tons of mosques, unless you have something else to do. Okay, I'm visiting my grandma and she lives in the middle of nowhere. Okay, you know. But ideally, you should live in a place where 5, 10 minutes away from my house, there's masajid. In this masjid, there's this amazing person and this person, and wherever I go, I'm going to be guided by somebody. There's like tons of lots of good stuff to do, as opposed to, oh, I see one righteous person once a week, and there's one mosque that's kind of an hour away, and I might go there once a week if I'm lucky, right? So we are like sheep, right? We are like sheep. So a sheep that is not in a herd will not survive. So the believer has to be in a herd, right? So the Muslims of Mecca, they left Mecca and they went to Medina, right? And so they left an area was like it was very hard to be Muslim to places it's easy to be Muslim. And there's all these Sahaba and the Prophet Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam, right? So that's all things being equal, right? Sometimes we don't have a choice. I can't travel. I can't do this. I can't do that. But we should, by default, there's lots of places. Like I was talking about England, for example. England is like, if you go to Birmingham, it's a bit of a slum, right? It is a kind of like ghetto compared to a lot of places in America. But like tons of scholars and tons of amazing people, right? Like you know, you can imagine like Thursday night gathering, right? Mason is like you can now talk about. There's not a Thursday night gathering. There's like an every night gathering, like 10 of them, 20 minutes away from your house. You know, that's Birmingham. Like the number of people who've memorized the Quran in Birmingham in England, right? It's like I don't know, 10,000 or something. I have no idea. Like the muftis, the scholars, the in Birmingham, tons of people, right? Dallas, I've heard good things about Dallas. I've heard good things about Michigan, Chicago, etc. Right? So there's lots of places in the world where there's lots of tons of good people. Like when I was in Jordan, there's like non-stop good things happening everywhere. You know, tons of things. You know, and so basically we need to be in a place where we are so as much as practically possible surrounded by lots of good reminders. What is like we forget, right? And we need to be reminded. We get affected by bad environment. We need to be in a good environment. So, and you know, that's what we have to do.
Thank you. Thank you.
Perfect. Khair. Okay. Okay. Tony says باب البدو إلى التلاع. حدثنا محمد بن الصباح قال حدثنا شريك عن مقدام بن شريح عن أبيه قال سألت عائشة عن البدو. قلت هل كان النبي صلى الله عليه وسلم يبدو؟ قال نعم كان يبدو إلى هؤلاء التلاع. And I'll read the next hadith as well. حدثنا أبو حفص بن علي قال حدثنا أبو عاصم عن عمرو بن وهب قال رأيت محمد بن عبد الله الأسيد وأسيد إذا ركب وهو محرم يضع ثوبه عن منكبيه ويضعه على فخذيه. قلت ما هذا؟ قال رأيت عبد الله يفعل مثل هذا. Okay, go ahead.
Uriah said, I asked Aisha about going out to the desert. I said, did the Prophet, may Allah bless him and grant him peace, go out to the desert? Yes, she replied, yes, he went out to those hillside streams.
So are you going out into nature? Did he ever go out into nature? So yeah, he did. Right. And so this is a very useful thing, a very healthy thing. Going out, looking at nature, spending time walking, right, hiking is a very, very useful thing to do. Okay. So Amr ibn Wahb said, next one, Bismillah.
Umar ibn Wahb said, I saw Muhammad ibn Abdullah ibn Usaid writing when he was in Ihram. He placed his garment on his shoulder and he placed it on his thighs. I said, what is this? He replied, I saw Abdullah act like this.
So I have no idea how this is related to this topic at all, right? The fiqh issue is what? Is you can't wear certain clothes in ihram. So he took that clothes off, and then he put that on his folded it and put it on his thighs. So is folding clothes and putting it on your thighs, does that count as wearing clothes? The answer is no, right? So, but I have no idea how this is related to the topic at all. Wallahu a'lam. So again, some of these things I don't think they're some issues with the manuscript, something issues with the copy. Allahu a'lam. Often happens. Even in Sahih Bukhari itself, sometimes we don't understand why Imam Bukhari put a hadith in a certain chapter. Like, doesn't matter which way you look at it, it's like super confusing. Right? Sometimes it's very subtle, other times it's just really don't understand why it's there at all. Wallahu a'lam. Okay. Where do we get to? Here. Okay. باب باب من أحب كتمان السر وأن يجالس كل قوم فيعرف أخلاقهم. حدثنا عبد الله بن محمد قال حدثنا عبد الرزاق أي صنعاني قال أخبرنا معمر قال أخبرني محمد بن عبد الله بن عبد الرحمن بن عبد القاري عن أبيه أن عمر بن الخطاب ورجلا من الأنصار كانا جالسين فجاء عبد الرحمن بن عبد القاري آه آه ابن عبد القاري فجلس إليهما فقال عمر إنا لا نحب من يرفع حديثنا فقاله عبد الرحمن لست أجالس أولئك يا أمير المؤمنين قال عمر بلى فجالس هذا وهذا ولا ترفع حديثنا ثم قال للأنصاري من ترى الناس يقولون يكون خليفة بعدي فعدد الأنصاري رجالا من المهاجرين لم يسمي عليا فقال عمر فما لهم عن أبي الحسن فوالله إنه لأحراهم إن كان عليهم أن يقيمهم على طريقة من الحق. Go ahead.
Abdullah ibn Abdul Rahman ibn Abdul Qari reported that Umar ibn al-Khattab
Yeah, so
and
I
the
think this is
Ansar.
actually a mistake here. And I'm looking in the mic. It's not Abdul Qari. It's Abdullah ibn Abdul Rahman ibn Abd al-Qari. So Abdul Qari means the slave of the Quran reciter, right? So it's not Abdul Qari. It's Abdin. Al-Qari. He's from Qar. That's where he's from. So that's his so Al-Qari is where he's from, and his name is Abdullah, the son of Abdurrahman, the son of Abd. Does that make sense? So Ibn Abdin Al-Qari. Hmm.
And an Ansari man was sitting together when Abdurrahman ibn Abdul Qari came and sat with them. Umar said, "We do not want to stop our conversation." Abdurrahman said, "I will not
We don't want to
sit."
stop a conversation, i.e., and it's private. So you're sitting next to us right now, and this is a private conversation, and we don't want to stop it. So I'm just being polite. Can you not come and sit with us yet? Hmm. So is that okay? Can you do that? Like I'm talking to Mason, and then Mustafa turns up, and I say, Mustafa, my apologies. This is private. Or I'm not sure if this is private, so I say, Mason, is this private? He says, yeah. So Mustafa, do you mind just stepping to the side because we're just trying to finish this, right? So you can be assertive without being rude, right? You can be assertive. Assertive is not the same as rude, right? This is one of these things that English people don't get. We're not assertive, and we think assertive is rude. It's not, right? It's not rude to be assertive. That's fine, right? Okay, so Amr said, we do not want to stop our conversation.
Omar said, "We do not want to stop our conversation." Abdurrahman said, "I will not sit with those people." Amir al-Mu'mineen. Omar said, "Sit with
I.e.,
so and
I don't sit with those people and share things. So whatever I hear, I'm not going to share with other people. So don't worry. Hmm. Omar said,
um, Omar said, "Sit with so and so and so and so, and do not stop our conversation." Then he
hmm.
asked Ansari, "Who do you think should be the caliph after me?" The Ansari counted off some men among the Muhajirin, but did not mention Ali. Omar said, "What do they have against Abu Hassan Ali? By Allah, if he were in charge of them, he would be the best he would be the best suited to set them on the path of the truth."
Hmm. So the point is, okay, that's the discussion, but the point is, Sayyidina Omar asking him, please don't sit with us because we want to speak privately, which is fine. أوكي دوكي باب التؤدة في الأمور. حدثنا موسى بن إسماعيل قال حدثنا أبو هلال قال حدثنا الحسن أن رجلا توفي وترك ابنا له ومولا له، فأوصى مولاه بابنه، فلم يألوه حتى أدركه وزوجه، فقال له جهزني أطلب العلم، فجهزه فأتى عالما فسأله فقال إذا أردت أن تنطلق فقل فقل لي أعلمك أعلمك. فقال حضر مني الخروج فعلمني، فقال اتق الله واصبر ولا تستعجل. قال الحسن في هذا الخير كله، فجاء لا يكاد ينساهن، إنما هن ثلاث. فلما جاء أهله نزل عن راحلته، فلما نزل الدار إذا هو برجل نائم متراخ على المرأة، فإذا امرأته نائمة، قال والله ما أريد أن أنتظر بهذا، فرجع إلى راحلته، فلما أراد أن يأخذ السيف قال اتق الله واصبر ولا تستعجل، فرجع فلما قام على رأسه قال ما أنتظر بهذا شيئا، فرجع إلى راحلته، فلما أراد يأخذ سيفه ذكره، فرجع إليه، فلما قام على رأسه استيقظ رجل، فلما رآه وثب إليه فعانقه وقبله وقبله وسأله قال ما أصبت بعدي؟ قال أصبت والله بعدك خيرا كثيرا، أصبت والله بعدك أني مشيت الليلة بين السيف وبين رأسك ثلاث مرارا، فحاجزني ما أصبت من العلم عن قتلك. Go ahead.
Hassan relates that a man died and left his son and a Mola.
A freed slave.
He appointed the Mola as his son's guardian. This was not remiss, and continued to look after the lad until he had become of an age, and he had found him a wife. The boy said to him, "Equip me so I can seek for knowledge." He fitted him out. He fitted hi- he fitted him out. The boy then went to a man of knowledge and asked him to teach him. The man said, "Tell me where you want to leave, and I will teach you." The boy said, I feel should leave, so instruct me." The scholar said, "Have taqwa of Allah, have patience, do not be hasty." And Hassan remarked that this contains all good. He left,
Fear
and he
Allah,
could
be patient, and don't be hasty.
He left, and he could hardly forget these things, for there were only three of them. When he reached his family, he dismounted. When he entered the house, there was the man sleeping apart from his wife, who was asleep there. He exclaimed, "What am I waiting for with this man?" He went back to his mount and wanted to pick up his sword, but then he repeated, "Have taqwa of Allah, have patience, do not be hasty." So he went back until he was standing at the man's head and said, "I will not wait to deal with this man." He went back to his mount again and wanted to take up his sword, but then he again remembered the words. He went back again, and while he was standing at the man's head, he woke up. The man woke up. When the man woke up, he ran to him, embraced him, and kissed him. He asked him, "What happened to you after you left me?" He replied, "By Allah, I have received a lot of blessings. By Allah, after I left you, I reached the point where I spent the night going 3 times between my sword and your head, and it was the knowledge which I have obtained which kept me from killing you."
hmm So look at the situation. So I don't quite understand though what even happened. What's the whole situation? But the point is, right? Don't jump to conclusions. You don't know what's happening. You don't know what's going on. Um, uh, and so fear Allah, be patient, and right. So this is very, very useful in education. It's useful in work, right? You start a job, fear Allah, be patient, and don't be hasty, right? The job is not going to be what you want it to be. Your education is not going to work out the way you want it to work out. Relationships don't work out in the same way. Careers, health, memorization, right? Have fear of Allah in your memorization. Be patient. Don't be hasty, right? So you're gonna. This is very, very important, very comprehensive rule there. خير إن شاء الله. We'll stop here إن شاء الله تعالى. وصلى الله على سيدنا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه وسلم. Any questions or queries?
Uh, what was what was it like? What is a Bedouin?
What's a Bedouin? Somebody who lives in the desert. What's a
And
Bedouin?
what are the five traits again for a Bedouin? They would chase women. They would what was other four? What was other four?
I have no idea. Traits of Bedouins? I don't know if I don't know of a certain list that they would do, but people who live in the desert, they would. So basically, it's like the Bedouin life is a type of life that many people in the world live. But if you can imagine, there's kind of like three kind of stages of life that people live in is living by yourself as a kind of a hunter-gatherer, right? That's a kind of a Bedouin. Um, and then there's somebody who lives life in a small village with a tribe, and then somebody who lives in a city, right? These are these kind of like three stages of humans. So semi-nomadic people are people who are moving around, and they're not really in villages, they're not really in towns, and that comes with it this they're not so educated generally because it's very difficult to become educated, and they're extremely independent. And so that's the Bedouin life. Allahu A'lam. But as for a specific list of qualities of Bedouins, I don't know. Allahu A'lam. Inshallah. Okay, Jazakum khair. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.